Let's actually start with the latest events that Chicago has been talking about. What was your reaction to the Van Dijk guilty verdict?
Well, mostly relief. I was relieved that this jury, frankly, bucked a national trend, focused on the evidence and not the distractions that the defense had put in its path, and really returned the only verdict that was consistent with the evidence. So I was relieved that that happened, that those folks should be commended for really performing their civic duty. And I was also relieved that Chicagoans expressed themselves in a peaceful protest way, not with violence that we've seen in other cities. This is the tradition of Chicago. People stand tall in tough moments, and I think we really have to mark and honor the people and the activists that really brought this case to the fore.
We just saw a reporter, Diana Gutierrez, reference community members that are asking Mayor Emanuel to step down. Do you think that that would be appropriate in this situation?
Look, I understand the sentiment because people want change in the city, and we're going to have change. Mayor Rahm Emanuel is not going to be on the ballot, and frankly, I think I present the only candidate in the field that is independent, that has the experience and the bandwidth to be able to get the job done and respond to the need that people have expressed all over the city to turn the page and move forward in a completely different direction.
Well, Lori, it's a crowded field right now. 15 people running for mayor. Now that Rahm Emanuel is not going to be running for re-election, how do you think this affects your bid for mayor?
Well, I think it actually opens up a wider lane. We've seen a bunch of newcomers who've found political courage now that Rahm Emanuel is not on the ballot. But for those of us who had the courage to get in, I think I stand separate and apart from the field. I've run large city agencies, the police department, the 911 center, the procurement department. I have a bandwidth of experience in helping really move the city forward on important issues, particularly around police reform and accountability. And I'm ready day one to take the mantle of the mayor's office and move the city in a different direction.
So let's switch it up. Let's talk about the economy a little bit.
Sure.
I think a lot of Chicagoans, they're actually fleeing the city of Chicago at record numbers right now. We know that we can't ignore the role that finances play in a lot of people's decisions to move to the surrounding suburbs because it can be cheaper to live there. How can we make sure that Chicago remains an affordable place for low and middle class residents?
We are one of the only major metropolitan areas in the country that's losing population. That should create a sense of urgency. And unfortunately, it hasn't with this administration. We've got to do a number of things. We've got to make sure that we are building up small business activity in the neighborhoods and not focusing exclusively on downtown. We've got to create opportunities and hope for people in the neighborhoods where we have routinely 25% or higher unemployment. We've got to create real economic development opportunity to connect people up to real jobs there. We've got to build up our neighborhood schools and make sure that we've got a ready, willing, and able workforce. And we've got to tend to the needs of people who are suffering from a lack of access to cheap and affordable medical care, trauma that permeates so many neighborhoods. So we got to have a comprehensive plan to really uplift the quality of life in our neighborhoods. And that's the kind of plan that I'm offering.
Okay, to get more specific on schools, you actually mentioned in your platform that you would like to have an elected school board.
Yes.
How do you think that will work here in Chicago?
Well, I think if we really provide opportunity for parents and other stakeholders to have a seat at the table, I think that it will work well. I grew up in a town where my mother was on an elected school board, and to have a real parent advocate to speak to the needs of parents and teachers and other stakeholders in the overall operations of the Chicago Public Schools, I think is a huge benefit and plus, and we wouldn't see some of the problems that we've seen now.
Okay, and while we're at it, we're mentioning an elected school board. I also have to ask you about term limits for mayor and aldermen in the city of Chicago. That's been in the news recently, and we're trying to see whether or not we'll see it on the ballot come November. Well, I
support it, and I issued a good government plan where I said day one, I will issue an executive order that limits my term to 2. I think we ought to also have term limits for aldermanic seats as well. It's important that people don't get stagnant in the jobs. If you have term limits, you drive towards a goal, you know you have a finite time in office, and it allows other people to have a seat at the table, which is critically important in refreshing our democracy and making people feel like the government is actually responsive to their needs.
All right, Lori Lightfoot, candidate for mayor, has spoken. Thank you so much for coming to the Jam. I hope you'll come back.
I will absolutely come back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, the Chicago mayoral election is February 26th of 2019. 2019, Lori Lightfoot is running for mayor of our city. You can find out more info about our platform. That was lightfootforchicago.com. Also check out our other candidates that we've interviewed on our show at thejamtvshow.com. You can find our Voters Resource Center with all the information.